Um, Hello, everyone. Welcome, welcome. I want to give you a warm welcome to Unleash Your Brilliant Creativity, Inspiring the Creatrix Within You global event. These are important times to remember who we truly are and to reconnect with our true essence and bring forth our light and let our true nature shine. We're here to guide and support each other on this journey of awakening. When we share our wisdom and magic with as many people as possible, and when we all contribute and collaborate together, we facilitate the global awakening of consciousness and support people everywhere during these times of massive change. Unleash Your Brilliant Creativity, Inspiring the Creatrix Within You is a very special event designed to guide you and inspire you to embody your creative spirit, spark the light within you. Unleash Your Brilliant Creativity, Inspiring the Creatrix Within You is a global event in which female speakers from creatives, coaches, astrologers, artists, healers, visionaries, and mystery school teachers will share the spiritual journey and how they came to bring forth the creative gifts into the world and become who they are today. By sharing our stories, we can inspire women to reconnect to the Creatrix, to the sacred, divine, feminine creative fire that is burning in our hearts. We empower and motivate each other by nurturing our creative spirit and tending our visionary fire. So let's glow. I am Teresa Chaide. I'm your host. I'm the creator of this global event. And today I am delighted to present Ana Maria Vasquez. Hello.
Oh my goodness, I started getting teary as you were reading your intro because we need this so much, right? I work with so many women that have been missing and forgetting, and it's like, oh, just being home. So thank you for creating this sacred space. And I love that. Let's glow. Oh my goodness.
Yes. Oh my God. Thank you. Thank you for that glowing and radiant energy that you're bringing in. I love it. Yes, let's do that. So let me read your bio so the audience can know about you. Ana Maria Vasquez is a multisensory animal and nature intuitive. She's a natural energy reader who lifts the veil between what's happening in the 3D world and the energetic patterns behind it. Through teaching, speaking, and remote sessions, Ana Maria's profound connection with the natural world sources her in helping you understand the messages coming from the animals and nature while unpacking your intuitive backpack. She's also the author of Nature, Divine Experiences with Trees, Plants, Stones, and Landscapes, a shamanic practitioner, a certified intuitive strategist, and a sacred stories luminary. You can learn more about her and her work at her website, www.intentiontraining.com. And we'll put that information below this video so everybody can reach you. And the topic of your interview today is connecting with the animals and nature to unleash your brilliance. Here we go, the word of brilliant light, luminosity. So how has connecting with animals and nature sourced you in unleashing your creative brilliance?
Well, first of all, I would say in our society, so many of us think we don't have creative brilliance unless we are quote unquote an artist, right? Unless we're painting something or, like that art world, we've really shut ourselves off from our own creative brilliance, thinking like it's very put it in this compartment, right? I'll do it when I'm creating a craft or something. And we don't understand that creation, it is who we be. It's our very essence of who we be, that we are constantly in co-creation with our higher self, with source. And when we find that, I like to call it a portal, when we find the portal that links us, right? The dots connect, things light up. And so for me, it was about deeply and profoundly connecting with the animals in nature, and that acting as the portal that takes me into that space, into the quantum field where everything exists, where we receive and connect with the divine mind, and we're sourced with that inspiration, right? When we're in our divine feminine, in our listening, we can connect to the divine mind and receive those downloads that weren't possible when we were running around in our head everywhere else trying to figure things out. We know we're on the wrong track. And once we receive that divine guidance, our divine feminine can turn it over to our divine masculine. who then, when we're in balance, we put it out into the world. The divine masculine calls in the people, situations, resources, structures, or allows us to create them to get that brilliance out into the world. When we're not balanced, right, what happens is our masculine and our feminine are like an old married couple, and they're just bickering and fighting and nothing's getting done. And so we want to come into that union. And what we want to pay attention to is, what is your entry point to that space, right? For me, it's animals and nature. And I know that because ever since I was little, even before I could talk to animals, right? Or I knew I could talk to them, I was the kid who was, wherever there's an animal in the house, right? That's where I am. Is it under the table in the kitchen? That's where I am still, as an adult at the party. I'm following the cat into the back room, right? And, growing up in a chaotic environment, nature was my refuge. So I would run out to the trees. So I didn't have the language for why that was my refuge, why the animals, were my familiars, but I had a knowingness. And so that became my portal, my entryway, my well-worn path into the mystical, into the magical.
Yes, I love that. Thank you for sharing. And I resonate with that because I'm the same way. I grew up in Spain in a farm, in a dairy farm. So nature was my nurturing place. Home was like whatever, but I found my time in nature was nurturing. I mean, everything was so alive, the trees, the mushrooms, even the snakes that I was afraid of. But everything has so much connection, and I felt connected, like I belong, and that was my thing, the belonging in nature, being part of it, not separate. And I am grateful for having that experience of growing there, that I could just get on my bike and disappear for hours and go to the river, and my parents didn't have to worry about a thing. I came home, like when I needed to be home. But yeah, that's why I wanted you here, because I resonate so much with that. And I want and that's also my happy place and my offering. I want help others reconnect to that nature. Some people do not have the experience in childhood, or may not, or they live in cities, but there's nature is all around us. There's so much to connect with, and just bringing people little by little to nature and animals. And yeah, could you expand a little bit more on your upbringing, or like instances in nature that really were like a deep initiation, an awakening? Because I have so many of those too, but I would love to hear yours.
Absolutely. It's one of my favorite stories to tell. So, like I said, I knew I had a connection to animals and nature, but I would have never said, oh, I'm a tree talker, or I'm an animal communicator. Those words just didn't exist when I was growing up. And I went along my life, right? I did everything I was supposed to do. I was well papered. If you have the checklist of what you're supposed to do, I did it all. And I was unhappy. And it didn't make any sense, because on the outside looking in, it looked really good. But I would literally cry to work, almost on my way to work, almost every day. And I had good jobs, but they weren't soul fulfilling. And I didn't know what I wanted to do. What else? I just knew there was something else. And so I had been getting nudges about, what to do, but I wasn't following them, right? Like so many of us, we ask for every sign in the world, and then we ask for a signier sign. I don't know. Can I get another one? And so what eventually happened, right? When the nudges don't work, we get the 2x4 method, right? And so I experienced this big life tsunami where I lost my job, I lost my home, I lost my relationship. I mean, like in the span of 18 months, everything on that checklist was gone, right? And there I sat in the pile of ashes that used to be my life, going, well, now what am I going to do? And to be quite honest, I wasn't sure I wanted to stay, right? Like I was like, I did everything I was supposed to do, and this is where I'm at. So WTF, right? And so I was like, if I'm going to stay and if I'm going to do this, I need to do it in a different way. I had always, once I figured out that there was a category called animal communication, that's what I wanted to do. I so desperately wanted to communicate with animals, to be able to help them, to be able to help other people who had that heart for animals. And so I did a deep dive into spirituality. And I had been hearing that all of us can do this, right? We're wired. And I thought, I don't know about that. So I took it into my living laboratory, right? And I tested out all the universal principles, all the platitudes, because my thought was either there's something real in here and I want to learn about this, or it's just nonsense designed to make us feel better until we find like, so let me know. I can deal better if I at least know. And so I was working with one of my spiritual mentors, and she gave me an assignment to go out to a tree for 30 days, put my hands on it and talk to it. And I thought, I don't think she knows what to do with me, right? Like, I think this is just busy work. Now she's got 30 days to figure out how to help this hot mess, right? And so I thought, well, for nothing else, I'm going to be a really good student. I'm going to do this, if for no other reason, to turn in my laboratory report at the end and say, it didn't work. What else have you got? So faithfully, I go out to this tree. I found one tree and I go out to it every day for 30 minutes. I've always loved nature, but this assignment made me feel weird, right? Like, it's like, if anybody comes by when I'm doing this, I don't know what they're going to say. I don't know what I'm going to say. And I felt even uncomfortable with the tree. Like, I don't know if I'm touching you, how I'm supposed to. What am I supposed to be doing here? I don't get it, right? My head was so busy. And so for about 3 weeks, the first 3 weeks, I did it faithfully every day, 30 minutes, and nothing, right? Like nothing. Nothing's happening. It's just a girl talking to a tree. And then somewhere in the fourth week, I'm sitting in my house and I am asking a question out loud, rhetorical, right? When you live by yourself, you talk to well, I don't live by myself now and I still talk to myself. But I talk to myself and I don't even remember what the question was, because the next thing that happened was so profound and life-changing that the question doesn't even matter anymore. So I ask a rhetorical question and I audibly hear an answer, like outside of my head. And it feels like, even though I'm inside, it feels like it's coming from the tree outside, the tree that I've been talking to, talking at that point. And so I stand up and I go to the window and I'm like, was that you? And I heard it again. And I heard yes. And I'm like, how is that even possible? And before I could gather my wherewithal, right? Like I said, and it's embarrassing to me now, considering what I do. I said to the tree, oh, I asked to talk to animals. I don't know what to do with a talking tree. And it's just my humanness and my authenticity that was there. Like, I thought a dog was going to step up and start talking to me, and now this tree. And the tree chuckled, right? Like, they have personalities. It's amazing. And the tree chuckled and said, it's coming. This is part of a recalibration process. It's coming. And so I went into this process with that tree, and that I would ask it questions that I didn't know the answer to, but I could go find an answer to. And time after time, it was giving me information that was spot on, that I could verify. So of course, right, this relationship with this tree, it just expanded. The tree started teaching me all sorts of things about energy and mechanics of energy, and introducing me to other trees. And sure enough, within about 6 weeks of that first experience, the animals started showing up, like in really amazing, profound ways. And it was happening at a rate and in a way that I couldn't ignore it. And the more that I leaned in, the more expansion that would happen. And it was so phenomenal, to be tutored by the trees and then to go on to be really like a mouthpiece for them. It's such an honor to be able to share what they taught me, so I can help other people do it too, right? Because it's not rocket science. They explained it very easily to me when I was in all my skepticism. But this ability, we are truly connected to everything. And we want to follow what lights us up, right? Some people, it's the angels. Some people, it's the ascended masters. Some people, it's channeling their higher selves or, galactic beings. For me, it's, man, I'm such an earth girl, right? Like, the trees and the animals, that's my jam. That's where I want to be. That's who lights me up. For most folks, when something happens, you get on the phone with your girlfriends or you text them. I run out to the trees, right? Like the first thing I want to do with that book, right? When I got the book deal, I ran out to my council of trees and I was like doing the happy dance. And then also like, you guys got to help me. I can't write a book. So it's that piece about that. Where do you find connection? Because connection is the path to the creative expression.
Yeah, so beautiful experience. And this is the book we're talking about. I love it. I have a question, a follow-up. What kind of tree was that?
The first tree, this is so funny because I didn't know, right? Like it was a tree, it was a pine tree. And so I asked it. First, I asked it, well, what can I call you? And she said her name was Ruby. And I thought, okay, great, Ruby. And I said, well, what kind of tree are you? And she says, I'm a red pine. And I said, meh, that's a little too on the nose. I'm pretty sure I'm making this up, right? Like my skeptical mind was there the whole time. And it's allowed, right? Like that's what we have to learn. It's okay. We just have to have a different relationship with it. But I then got a friend who knew their botany and came and verified. And then I double checked it with a book because then I didn't trust my friend, right? I was like, they're just saying that so because they don't want me to think I'm crazy. But it was a red pine. It was absolutely phenomenal. And she taught me so much. And like I said, she taught me to be connected because I don't live near her anymore. And when I got the nudge to leave, I thought there's no way. It was like ripping me away from family. And she taught me how to connect with other trees where I would be living in the next place to help me call in that space. And so I help people with that too, right? To connect and to remember, because then we get to really be in that divine conspiracy of being guided in really amazing ways.
Oh, so good. And I'm all these connections. I'm a tree person too. Trees and water is my thing. And being in nature, like seeing the world and exploring, it just brings me joy and lights me up. But look at the connection. My tree is the redwood tree. I was born in a city called Redwood City, and that's my tree. And when I've been hiking there, I've received, like you said earlier, downloads of poems mostly that it just like flows. And then I'm like, hurry up, I have to write it down. But it's just that connection with the trees. And look at, they have a tree behind me here that my friend painted for me. But yeah, I love that. And yeah, like it's such a beautiful way of like you mentioned, I don't talk to anybody. I talk aloud as well. And I go to my backyard or whatever nature I have access to immediately. I have a river actually here in the city and a grove of redwoods, even though they're like far away from where the redwoods grow. But I'm like, it's meant to be. That's my sacred space, the flowing water, the river, the trees. And yeah, I don't care anymore if people see me talking, hugging them or whatever. It's just like, oh my God, it's so nurturing. And that's when you're nurtured, when you're happy, you open up all these portals to creativity. And that's what we're here to do. So thank you for sharing that beautiful connection. And
I'm
yes.
laughing over here because I'm thinking about, like you said, at first I was very, self-conscious and oh my goodness, I don't, what would happen if somebody saw me, fast forward, a dozen years or whatever. And now, because I'm known as, your go-to nature gal, if I'm out and we attend a lot of outdoor events, right? Whether it's music or festivals or whatever. And if I'm just out there sitting, friends and family will come up to me. They're like, oh, what are the trees saying? And I'm like, oh, I was listening to the music, right? So now it's weird if I'm not talking to a tree. And talk about that juxtaposition of shifting from, feeling weird to feeling weird if I'm not, right? Like talking to the rock or the dog or whatever. So I promise you, where you are now is not your destination. And so keep envisioning, keep feeling into what it is that you're wanting to step into, because you are a creator and you are the one who gets to run your ship and call in the life that you love.
Oh my gosh, I'm over here laughing too. I love it. I have the same thing. My friends, the ones who are not so awakened or spiritually, they just know me. I'm the tree girl. They are like, what kind of tree is this? Blah, 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 all kinds of stuff. It's like, oh, look, a tree for you. They're always pointing it out, but they know me as that. So I love that. Yes. Okay, so help us understand what it means to activate your alliance with the natural world and why it matters.
So it moves us when we activate it, and activating it, right? For me in that situation, in my story, was when I was consciously taking time to calibrate my energy field to the tree's energy field. Some people do it through grounding, earthing, those things. And so this is the opportunity for us to activate it. But most of it comes from that intentional choice that I am connecting with. You know what? He's not going to stop barking. I'm sorry. Can I run out quick? I'm so sorry.
Sure, go ahead.
I'm like, he needs something. Just a minute. All right. 1 second. I apologize.
No worries. He's talking to you.
Yeah. And right. He's in that senior time where he has different, so he lets me know different things. And that wasn't a, I'm bored. It was like, I need something. I was like, oh no.
Oh,
Okay. Where were we? And I'll,
your video. There you go. Yeah, and help us understand to activate your alliance with the natural world and why it matters. Yeah.
let me know when we're recording. So good, perfect. Okay. So using our superpower of intention is really what is the foundation of activating that alliance. And it moves us, right? That intention of, I want to connect deeper. I want to understand this connection. That is what activates and moves us from just being a nature lover, right? We move, and even our intuitive development cycles are like this, where it moves from us being in admiration, right? Like we see that beautiful tree and we're like, oh my gosh, it's so beautiful. And that's kind of the first step. It's very one-way communication, us, adulating on that tree. Then we move into a space where we'll feel energy coming from that tree. We may not be hearing anything yet, but we feel it, like, and we're still, it's kind of the one-way communication. We're like, oh my gosh, thank you for those beautiful vibrations and da 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 da. And then in our intuitive development cycle, we get to a spot where it is the back and forth. But it all starts with that intention to activate that connection, to activate that alliance, right? Because we live in a free will universe or multiverse, we have to choose. And we choose over and over and over again. It's not a one and done. It is continually re-choosing that connection, that vibration, that calibration. And of course, there are exercises, tips, tricks, hacks, things that we can do that strengthen that bond. But it all starts with the intention of, I'm going to lean into this. This is a natural thing that lights me up. I'm naturally drawn to it. I'm going to lean in some more. And I'm going to ask to collaborate with that. And the magic starts to spark in that moment.
Absolutely. And I love it. That's why, like, look, our conversation, this is the first time we meet and we have so many things in common, and sharing that too in community with others, you can awaken to go even deeper. I feel like these conversations here in this summit have been like also like quantum leap, like I'm learning so much more. I mean, it's just going deeper. And also in the nature connection for me too is the cycles, like this morning, I mean, spring is here, spring is in the air. I've gone to my backyard. Some flowers are flowering, some trees are, little flowers, some that just have little leaves. So you can see the aliveness of it, and just paying attention to that. Or like, we've been having rain on and off, or just the magic that happens, like the other day driving to work about rainbows, just exciting, and that's what lights me up. And, you just see a rainbow, you're present to it. It kind of opens up your mind to like, all of the stories about rainbows that we hear, and just kind of like gets you in the state of flow of not being on your head, just kind of like being more in your heart and joyful and just happy, things like that. Or birds. I mean, we have tons of birds over here and just so magical. Like I said, I'm just like a little, and to me, it was going back to that little girl, that innocence, that curiosity, exploration, that it came so natural to me that along the way got lost or dormant because life, like you, had to check off the boxes. And then you're like, what? This is it? I mean, there has to be more to life. I'm like, so then you get to reconnect and reawaken to nature and your true essence. That's who we really are. So thank you for that guidance. And what can people do if they don't have access to nature?
Well, that what you were just saying, actually, even about the seasons, there's a natural rhythm, a flow that in our modern day society, we're so removed from, right? We get up to an artificial alarm, the sun may not even be up yet. And we go into a synthetic environment with fake lighting and fake environment, climate and all of these things. And then all the EMFs. And we're so removed from our natural rhythm, because each of us has our own flow, our own rhythm. And for me, it's so sourcing and helpful to lean in to the seasonal wisdom that's there, right? It's so interesting where you are. You're already seeing the signs of spring. I live up in the Rocky Mountains, so spring, it says on the calendar it's around the corner, but as we're sitting here, it's snowing. So, it'll happen, but it reminds me, right? Like, don't get ahead of yourself. Right? It's not time to plant those seeds yet. Stay in your winter dream lodge. Keep dreaming this dream that you're going to want to birth, come summertime. So being in connection with the natural cycles of the seasons is a great way. And you don't need anything to do that. You can just know, because what happens, I don't know if you've ever noticed, when you look up like spring equinox, they'll give you like a specific time, like it's an event that you should be at. But what happens, what they know is they have used these amazing instruments to record that the earth herself puts out a very specific frequency at each of the seasonal points, right? The equinoxes and the solstices. And it's very different than the regular frequency at any other time. And it is a signal to all of life, right? It's like a director. This is the next scene. This is what we're doing now. Action, right? And so for us to lean into that, there's so much with that. But and it's interesting, our whole society has moved. At one point, 60 years ago, most people lived on farms and in rural areas. And then everything shifted, right? People went to where the jobs were. And so it was the cities. And we've got, around the world, most people live in cities. Some of them are more cittier than other cities, but it's that feeling of, more concrete, less open space, although city planners are getting better at it. And it's interesting because I get asked that all the time, right? Because I live on the edge of a 1,000,000-acre national forest, right? So I've got plenty of nature. But if I'm living in Manhattan in a high rise, it's very different. And it's not that one's better than the other, actually. And I have to tell you that the trees had told me at one point that people who are removed from nature or seemingly removed from nature are being asked to work more energetically. It's almost like they're in the advanced class, right? Because they don't have I call them the yoga blocks, right? The assistance to help them of the physical tree that's there. And when they told me that, I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense. And I was like, hey, wait a second. Does that mean I'm in the remedial class because I need those trees? And they really wouldn't say, right? Either way. But the beauty was when we are away or removed from nature, we're being asked to work more energetically. And so you're doing more visualizations, you're working with pictures, maybe you're even working with house plants, maybe you're bringing some nature in, but you're being asked to work at that energetic level, to work those muscles more so than, right? Like if I'm underneath a tree, I'm physically in that tree's auric field. Again, it's like a yoga block. It's really helping me jump into that energetic field, into that quantum field. that I may not have if I'm not sitting directly on a rock or up against a tree. But there's no need to make wrong or feel bad. It really is. We are called to be the creators wherever we are at, and whatever that looks like, and to follow those nudges for that. You know, recently we had everybody rallying around Flacco the owl in Central Park, right? Like, it was amazing the how many, you know, we think about New Yorkers as, you know, these hardened, tough folks, but they would come out in droves to see Flacco if they heard that he was somewhere. And again, that connection, getting people out in the trees, getting people out in nature more and more. It's divine conspiracy.
Definitely. Thank you for sharing that. I was not aware about Flaco the owl, and owl is one of my spirit animals. But for example, too, like you mentioning, and I know this, nature is all around us. And one of the best ways too is birds. They come to you, even in New York City. You're walking around, they're birds, just kind of like it's a slowing down to be present to them and connecting with them to see, how alike we are. And I start wondering, I'm like, oh, I wonder what kind of bird that is. Oh, singing beautifully, and just kind of like where they live, where they come from, all these things, or trees. There's trees everywhere, pretty much. And the other thing to connect for me, people who don't have access, to nature so quick, it's like learn about where you live, your environment. What type of trees are those that you see? Start being curious. Where does your water come from? Learn that. Like, where's the water source for your city? And just like I mentioned, birds, if you start seeing birds, start getting curious and Google it. There's wonderful apps to help you do that. What type of birds, what type of flowers, trees, all of that, and bringing nature home, like getting your flowers, or just simple little things that you can start off, you just can get started. So yeah, wonderful. Thank you. Let's talk a little bit about your book. What How did this come about? Can you tell us a little bit the backstory of it and how we all come together? Let me just put it up here again.
I love those stone beans that are on the front. They were, when we were working on the book and we were deciding on a cover, and the stone beans presented themselves, it was like, absolutely, right? Like, that's the one, because stone beans work with frequencies so much, and they help us to amplify different energies and or even shield us from unhelpful energies. So that was phenomenal. But the piece about how the book came to be, I had, again, had the knowingness that I was going to do a book at some point, but right, like, my human was like dragging her feet and like, it's a lot of work. You got to write it, then you got to get someone to produce, publish it. So I really was not very inspired to get moving on it. And I have to tell you, it was that piece where I was collaborating. I call it my cosmic committee, right? So it's all of the trees, all the rocks, all the animals, all the frequencies, all the guides that are sourcing me. And so trusting in the process and the unfolding and saying yes, right? Like, how isn't our job, right? Like, I was getting stuck in, well, how am I going to do this? How am I first going to write it? And then how am I going to publish it? And how isn't our job? Yes, is our job. And then we let the universe conspire on our behalf. This is that beautiful dance that we're doing back and forth. So every time I'd get stuck in how, I would just say, how is it my job? Yes, I do want to do a book. Yes, I'm available to do a book. And I had a publisher call me, reach out to me. I didn't reach out to any publishers, because the first time I started looking, I was like, oh, I don't want to do that. That feels so heavy and so yucky. And so I was, through my own manifesting, I was able to call in a publisher that reached out to me and said, we're doing this book. We're doing a series of books, actually, called Common Sentience. And it's all about bringing the mystical more mainstream and all these different ways to access these divine and mystical experiences. And we'd like you to cover nature. How is it that we work with nature to have those mystical and divine experiences? And I was like, holy cats. I have a lot of author friends, and none of them have a story about a publisher calling them and making it so simple and easy. And then to be in this series, right? I want to say at this point, there's 13 books in this series. There might even be more, I'm not sure, but to be positioned with amazing thought leaders, right? Like JJ and Desiree Hurtak, Trisha McCannon, William Henry, Stephen Farmer, Freddie Silva, right? Like there are amazing light workers and thought leaders in this series. And so it was even better than what I could have imagined for myself, right? When I was thinking about, oh, what would it feel like to be an author? And the doors that it has opened up for me. And what's so funny, right? Like I feel like I cheated because, right, like anytime I had to write a chapter, I'd go outside and talk, like whoever the chapter was about, right? Are we talking about the elements? Are we talking about the trees or the rocks or the plants? And I would talk to them and say, well, what do you want to say? Right? Like I'd much rather you tell me than me just make something up. And so that beautiful channeling experience, and the way that they set up the books, again, you find the portal that is yours. Is it animals? Is it angels? Is it nature? And then the books have 3 sections. So the first section is, what is this whole thing we're talking about, right? For me, the magic in nature, how does it show up? The second section is all short stories about everyday people having these experiences, because it's really easy as a human, right? Our skeptical side is like, oh yeah, well, Anna Maria can do it, but I can't because of whatever, right? We make up silly stuff. And there are 30 stories in my book of everyday people having these phenomenal, amazing experiences. And it shows us that we can do it too, right? Like the 4-minute mile. Before someone did it, everyone said you couldn't do it. And then now people do it. It's not even a thing, right? So it's that piece that sets you up for possibility. And then the third section is all about practices and exercises and tips for you to induce those mystical experiences, in my book, of course, with nature. So it was a brilliant project that continues to grow and to be amazing. And I'm so grateful again for the trees, right? And the rocks and the animals who I feel like have paved the way for me. And as long as I stay connected and in the listening, they're not steering me wrong.
Yeah, congratulations. It's such a wonderful creation. And I love the format of the book. I really resonate with it because, like you mentioned, part 1 is just connecting you, bringing you in, and then you having community contribute here, with their stories, because I'm sure there were tons of, people who reached out, but it's wonderful to make that connection and community so people can see others are feeling the same way and having similar experiences, and just to share because it helps us grow. Like on this summit, we all sharing our stories, and I'm sure like some people here listening like resonate what we talked about deeply because they had similar experiences or they awaken to something we said. If there's just storytelling is just magnificent. It's medicine. It's the medicine we need these days. So thank you for that wonderful book. And check it out in the website, and just you can find it on Amazon, everywhere where books are sold as well. So thank you for that. And I just want to touch base now here, like the wonderful gift that you're offering. If you can tell us a little bit more, the gift is discover the top 5 ways to connect deeper with animals and nature.
Oh my goodness, that was such a fun project to put that together, right? Because we all, our human skeptic just doesn't believe that we're really doing it or we can do it or whatever. So to take people through some actual steps that you can go through that are going to help you, it's essentially, right, taking you through the same process that I went through to recalibrate my energy. So we talk about these different ways, these different practices that you can do that will help you get in that space to open up, to receive, right? It's a process that it happens. And then there are things like energetic supplements, right, that can source us, just like in the physical world, we'll take nutritional supplement to help boost things, right? It's not about working harder. It's about working smarter. It's about collaborating, right? With all of the energy that is there already. We're not meant to do this alone, just like why we're storytellers. We are a tribal people. We're meant to come in. It takes a village for anything. I don't care what you're doing. It takes a village. And this piece about us leaning in to that connection with the animals in nature in very easy everyday ways, right? Like I love sharing those practical ways to allow yourself to make that connection, because we all have enough things to do in our life already. And so if we can add things in that create a bigger movement, right? And that's when we're connecting with the trees, when we're connecting with the rocks, when we're understanding what's happening at an energetic level, when we're connecting with those beings and what it does for our field. So that is a great primer for diving in deeper, really. And it's been so fun to hear people's experiences with that.
I love it. Thank you. Thank you for the beautiful, wonderful gift. I'm sure people will enjoy it. And I just wanted to mention two things that go together, nature and storytelling. I feel they're really indigenous to our soul. Like you said, we were tribal and now, we have the separation, but we all coming together again because we need the nurturings and learning from each other. Thank you for the wonderful gift and share with us how people can work with you. What are your offerings? What's coming up for 2024?
It's so exciting. Every year just gets better and better. It's so very exciting. And so, signing up for the free gift is the first way, right? That will not only get you your free gift, it'll get you on my mailing list. So you'll stay on top of what's going on, what I'm offering, where I'm appearing, these different things. Very exciting. One of my favorite things, right? Like I always thought just doing the readings was going to be it, right? Like, until I am old and can't hold my phone anymore, right? I'm going to just read for people's animals and I'll be happy. But I started getting more and more nudges and people asking, well, how do you do that? Can you teach me how to do that? And I thought, well, I'm not even sure if I know how I do it, right? And so I had to go back into the tutelage under the trees and the animals and dissect the way that I do it. What does this mean here? How did I know this? And really start to understand the mechanics of energy. So everything in my sacred livelihood is shifted to really being that mentor, to being that teacher, to being the one that helps you unpack your intuitive backpack, right? Because when we have a backpack on, we are like, I know I have a map or a granola bar or my water, but we can't get it, right? But if you have a friend who's hiking with you, they turn you around, they open your backpack, they're like, here's your granola bar, here's your flashlight, here's your map, drink your water, right? And it's easier that way. And so I'm so grateful for the position to be able to mentor folks. And so I have a multi-dimensional mentorship group. And so it's a monthly program and we meet twice monthly in a video format where we come together. I read for folks in the group. We get a read on what's going on for you. We distill down the energy of the month. And then the other 2 weeks of the month, we're looking at expanding and developing and sharing your intuitive abilities. So I work with folks who haven't quite made the connection all the way through to the folks who are already out there doing it professionally, and to continue that professional development, that expansion. We also look at natural and holistic health that applies to us and our animals, because those things come up in our readings when we're reading for other animals. And so to be the reader that helps other readers, right? Like it's such an honor and it's so exciting to watch people step out and in new ways. So that monthly multidimensional mentorship program has been so shifting for folks. And that is, for this group especially, right? The sweet souls that you've gathered, that's what came through the strongest, that this is about, really walking each other home.
Wonderful, wonderful. I appreciate that. And I'm sure, we're going to put all the information to the free gift and Ana Maria's website and everything below this video. So you can go find her offerings and everything that she has there. Some wonderful information and her offerings. And just to close off right now, what last words of wisdom would you like to leave the audience with?
Well, as I am feeling in, I'm getting a fir tree coming through for everyone. And this is really about resilience and rising above, because we all have those stories, right? About why we can't do it, right? Whatever it is. And we're typically surrounded by people and family and friends, well-meaning, but that are like, throwing every obstacle in our way. And I will tell you again, I always feel like the poster child for all of this. If I can do it, you can do it too, because I've been able to move from not being connected to being connected, from not being able to share anything with my family, right, for fear of a million different things, to who's the first person that they call or text now when there's an issue of any kind in the energetic world with animals or with nature. And it is this opportunity for us. Where you are now is not your destination, right? Like, you have to see vision, even just hope that there's a different possibility. All of those pieces that edge us up and raise our vibration into that ability to call it in. So where you are now is not your destination. Keep feeling into the possibilities, even if it seems ridiculous. I mean, hello, a tree talked to me, right? Like, that seems pretty ridiculous, but it's not. And now every day I'm talking to people who are like, you're not gonna believe this tree talked to me. So lean into it and lean into what lights you up, right? If it's the trees, if it's the rocks, if it's the flowers. I had someone reach out to me because soil, like dirt, right, was like calling to her, and she was feeling this connection, and she was like, is that a thing? And I'm like, guess what, it is. And you are going to be a pioneer in that, because we don't have enough people talking about that from the energetic level. They're just now starting to talk about that in the agriculture world. So feel into the possibilities, follow what lights you up, and lean in.
Oh, I love that. That's Pachamama talking to us, that's the ground we are on. Oh, thank you. The wonderful words of wisdom and advice. And just thank you so much for this lovely conversation and your light. I mean, like, we're illuminating on each other here, and such a deep, rich conversation that we've had. And um, just hoping the people here in the audience enjoy this topic and enjoy and connected, and hopefully kind of took you on a little bit of a in your mind on a little journey through nature, imagining the trees that we talked about, the animals we talked about, even Anna Maria's dog made a visit here and say hello to us, and just the birds that we talk about, just kind of like, visualizing all of that. And thank you everyone for being here. Thank you, Ana Maria, for sharing your wisdom and your teachings and your work. And thank you to the audience for being here with us. Everybody have a beautiful, blessed day and enjoy nature. Go out there. Thank you, everyone. Bye.